We all have that one show, you know what I'm talking about. You watched it as a kid, you loved it, you remember it, and you want to make sure everyone else does too. Typically, these cartoons will resurface years later as the whole ended too soon, underappreciated cartoon category. But I already covered that. I'm here today to talk about the other shows, the shows that deserve to be forgotten. These shows were either so bad or so unmemorable that it wouldn't matter if they were lost to the sands of time. So without further ado, let's dive right in. Never before has a cartoon actually hurt someone's eyes to the extent of this show, The Problem Solvers. Airing in 2010, this show followed the adventures of Alfie, Horace, and Robo. Horace was a human who constantly looked like he was going through an anaphylactic shock. Robo was a cyborg, and Horace is indescribable. Like, he's supposed to be a dog, I guess, but he's more like the spawn of hell than anything in 101 Dalmatians. There's also this rich Tux dog that helps them out with their adventures and ends up being the only good part of the show solely because he's voiced by John DiMaggio. Basically, the problem solvers do exactly what they describe, solving problems. In fact, that's their entire business. But honestly, I feel like hiring these guys would cause a bigger problem than any help they can give. Just look at them. Would you want them coming to your door? What is that thing that's brown? It looks weird! Their problems range from mind-controlling frozen yogurt to casinos. You can never really tell what's gonna happen. Now, I'll admit, this simple plot, if done right, would actually make a pretty good show. Think about all the episode possibilities with such a simple plot as people solving problems as a business. The problem with the show is all in the execution. It was never very funny, and overall just way too weird. Now don't get me wrong, some shows take absurdism and surrealism in a great direction. It's not like Adventure Time was a super normal show by any stretch of the word, but at least it was grounded in enough ways to make sense to newer viewers. However, the main problem with The Problem Solvers was its painful neon orgy art style. One look at this and you can totally tell what I'm talking about. There's a million things going on at once, and everything is so crowded it's hard to believe the show was animated by a team of 15 people. Every cartoon should have a specific style, and it's usually dependent on its creator, but this is just out of control. It's fitting though, as the creator, Ben Jones, is the founder of the Pittsburgh art collective known as Paper Rad. Just one look at Paper Rad and you can tell where the influences come from. The show was bad on its own, don't get me wrong, but it was really the art style in the end that made the show as incredibly hated as it is. That's why it's just best to be forgotten.
We're the problem solvers, and we're really awesome at it. Because these problems are not at all hard to solve.
The Problem Solvers. New series premiere starting Mondays in April.
When the internet took off, so did YouTubers. Suddenly, all you needed was a camera, a following, and some merchandise to make millions. Now, things are settled out more, and YouTube and television are for the most part seen as separate platforms. But in the early 2000s, there was this weird trend of television shows trying to get a slice of the pie by snatching up these internet stars and using them for their advantage. We got monstrosities like Fred the Show on Nickelodeon, and on the Cartoon Network side of things, we got the Annoying Orange series. Whew, what a show. First of all, the Annoying Orange web series is horrible enough as it is. Sure, it was funny at first, but after a while, the whole concept kind of got really extremely old, so I'm sure you can expect that it's not the best thing to throw a television show's budget at. I mean, you remember the classic formula? The orange annoys a fruit of the week and then a knife. Ha 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 ha, roll credits. So how did they turn this concept into an 11-minute cartoon? Well, in any single way they could, I guess. Plots ranged from the characters getting superpowers to them going to space. It's a real mixed bag. What's even weirder now is the addition of other fellow YouTuber Tobuscus. Or should I say former web star, considering all that happened with him, but we'll save those skeletons for another day, huh? He was a fruit vendor, I guess? I don't know. Oh, during this time he also did like a bunch of bumpers for Cartoon Network, so I don't know, maybe he was living in the studio. The main point of this is that the web show itself didn't have too much going for it, and making it into a TV show just didn't change anything. It was boring, unfunny, it was obnoxious, I don't know, I didn't like to watch it. The show just was, well, annoying! Oh god, I hate my job. Before the mixed bag of a show that was Uncle Grandpa existed, the creator had another cartoon. One that was both unfunny, unoriginal, and completely horrifying. I'm talking, of course, about the horror story that is Secret Mountain Fort Awesome. Take one look at this show and it makes sense why it was so negatively received. The show follows a self-described monster fraternity who live in a fort that no sane person would actually ever want to live in. These monsters were banished from human society because of their appearances and actions. I mean, they are just monsters after all. Because of this, they're always trying to get back at the humans by performing crazy pranks and stunts. It sounds to me like a self-feeding system of destruction, but hey, what do I know? I'm just RetroNemo, huh? I'm the joke guy. But what makes this show so horrible is just how disgusting it is. Now, I was never a fan of gross-out humor, so I'm probably a little biased here, but this show seems to take it to the next level. One character is just like a green ball covered in pimples. I don't even know like what his name is. I just feel like throwing up thinking about him. I'm gonna stop talking about it now. This one is just a bunch of butts. Fucking why? I'm bowing out of this part. Everything here is just rotten and melty, and the show just looks like it smells. I have absolutely no idea how this thing got made, and looking back, this show horrified me. It looks more like something akin to Adult Swim, not something to show the 8 to 14 age range. I guess it's playing off of gross out humor and its right appeal, maybe Garbage Pail Kids and all that stuff, but man, I don't know. If I saw this as a kid, I would literally not sleep for months. Fans of Pete Browngart's work, if there are any of you out there, may recognize these characters as the main villains from the pilot of the other more successful show, Uncle Grandpa. I guess when he had the opportunity to pitch, Pete didn't want to go with Uncle Grandpa or something, because instead we got this. The show lasted a surprising 2 seasons, but was moved to iTunes exclusively for the last 8 episodes. That's Apple's equivalent of Nicktoons. It's bad. In the end, Pete made Uncle Grandpa, which was more well received, but you can't deny that this show was an incredible failure. When Nickelodeon was originally pitched the pilot that would eventually lead to Adventure Time, they turned it down. They didn't have time for a silly show about a boy and his dog. They had a much better show on the pipeline, about 2 boys and no dog. And that show was Fanboy and Chum. I'm sure Nick is happy with that decision now. The show centered on the antics of 2 friends who were, I guess, orphans. I mean, we never saw their parents and they were kids. And they dressed as superheroes, but they weren't superheroes. They were kids and, hold up. No, this explains nothing. I don't know, they get into antics, there's pop culture references, every so often they annoy some British wizard kid, and that happens for a while. Nothing special here. The main complaint people had with the show is just how annoying and obnoxious it was. The comedy was moronic, and the whole setup of Fanboy and Chum annoy someone every single episode got really old. Shows like SpongeBob pull off episodes like this really well. Take the classic SpongeBob and Patrick annoy Squidward dynamic, but they use those episodes sparingly. SpongeBob wasn't annoying all the time. And when he was, it wasn't to the point where fans could completely hate him. Fanboy and Chum felt obnoxious to the point of no return, and the show lacks any other redeeming qualities, making the show ultimately fall flat, destined to fade off into the hollowed halls of Nickelodeon forever. But I still thought it was kind of funny when I was a kid. I don't know. Johnny Test. Johnny 6-season Test. This show was the bane of my 12-year-old existence. The first season aired on Kids WB, and then after that, switched Animation Studios, and the show fell apart, man. That's when they switched to full-time Flash and started using campy sound effects, and ooh, it was bad. This led to the birth of what can only be classified as the worst cartoon sound effect of all time, the whip. Just mentioning it, I can't stop hearing it in my head, constantly whooping. Ah! So what made Johnny Test so bad? Well, like Fanboy and Chum, the show was obnoxious. The constant music changing and sound effects pandered to short attention spans. The plot of the show was pretty simple. Johnny Test had a head of fiery hair, a turbocharged backpack, blah blah blah. His dog name was Dookie, and he had 2 genius older sisters. Basically, reverse Dexter's Lab. I know people made that point before, but it's very accurate. Every week that they would test something out on Johnny, or Johnny would get into some antics because of science, and the sisters would have to bow him out. The episode contents were contrived and boring. Johnny wasn't likable. The dog's name was Dookie. I don't know what else I can say here. The only good thing that came out of this was the show's arch rival, Bling Bling Boy, who is absolutely America's sweetheart. Give a hand for Bling Bling Boy. What a guy. Ooh, look at those cheeks and the bling. Bling Bling Boy, marry me now. Everything else was horrible. Shows have fan-favorite characters. Number 6. Shows have fan-favorite characters. Cartoons especially. And usually when a successful show ends and writers want to cash in, they make a spin-off series. Spin-offs that usually focus on popular side characters. Now, some of these spin-offs are huge successes. I mean, Frasier was a spin-off of Cheers after all. However, most of the time they are complete and utter failures. Take the case of Planet Sheen, a spin-off of the classic Nickelodeon show Jimmy Neutron. Sure, Sheen was a funny character in Jimmy Neutron, but did he have the legs to carry an entire show of his own? I mean, no, obviously not. I'm mentioning him on this list. The concept of a Sheen-only show is pretty lackluster on his own, but when you make the plot a zany space adventure, well, you're just pouring water on a grease fire. I mean, like, what? Space? Can we get an answer on why? Was there a Nickelodeon exec who's like, well, Jimmy didn't go in space enough. Well, we got Sheen over here. Okay. Fuck, I'm getting fired tomorrow anyways. It doesn't matter. I don't know. There's just so many possible plots for the show. So many other than Sheen in space. The plot is Sheen accidentally goes to the planet when he messes with Rocket and Jimmy's lab. And so basically every week it's just him trying to get back to Earth. And there's a monkey from space because space chimps, I don't even know. There's crazy antics, there's an evil cloak guy with a name I seriously don't care to find who's always trying to stop Sheen. The biggest sin, however, was its opening.
Planet Sheen is oh so funky. Skateboards rock, shoes like feetsies. You are watching Planet Sheensy.
Oh, and they included a character who was so obviously supposed to be Carl, but like it was an alien instead? Why don't they just have Carl accidentally come to the planet with him? This makes no sense. But overall, the show was boring, uninteresting, and didn't deserve to exist, yet it did anyways. And that's why people should just move on and forget about Planet Sheen, and forget about Slug Carl, and the cloak guy, and the eyeball monster, and please, why is this the girl from Avatar? I don't even know anymore. This is why Nicktoons is a thing.
It all makes perfect sense, y'all. Planet Sheen.
You can't deny that Regular Show and Adventure Time were big cartoons that influenced almost every other cartoon in their generation, at least a little bit. They even influenced some cereal companies, like what?
Yeah.
Mainly, we saw an increase of generic two random lol friends doing wacky stuff adventure shows. Sanjay and Craig, Fanboy and Chum, and the worst one of them all, Breadwinners. The show was the spawn of a sort of dude bro genre, where they would just make a bunch of lol random humor and talk about butts and It was annoying. I remember being a kid and they announced Breadwinners and I knew I was gonna hate it from the second I saw it. I went to school and all my friends talked about it. We hated it. We were making fun of it before the show even goddamn came out. What was it about? Well, the Breadwinners are two ducks named Tall Sensible One and Short Funny Sensitive One, and together they deliver bread to ducks, stealing the fishhook's background style. The show just wasn't funny. The humor was annoying and tiring. You'll find that's a common theme on the list is that all these shows are annoying. I don't want to repeat myself. It's just kind of the way that it is. I mean, they're all annoying. And like I said, even as a kid, I remember absolutely hating it. I mean, everybody did. We all knew in the back of our heads that it wouldn't last long. And we were right, as it only lasted like 2 seasons. Ooh, 2 stars on IMDb. Uh-oh. The show also had the plague of annoying song breaks that make you wince harder than looking at my old middle school gaming channel. Let's look at some reviews of Breadwinners to see how the public thinks of this piece of animation history. Have you ever watched a cartoon that made you want to throw your TV out of the window? Oh, jeez. Oh, man. Oh, no. It's so true, though. Okay, so ultimately, guys, Breadwinners was annoying. It was nothing new and original. Can we just forget about it? Speaking of bad spin-offs, there's really only one thing that I can think of that's worse than Planet Sheen. One thing that could only be made by Mr. Adult Comedy himself, Seth MacFarlane. Genius behind the classic Family Guy and its counterpart American Dad, which impacted American culture as a whole. Well, the creator decided to try his hands in a brand new old property with the Cleveland Show. I mean, so what if Cleveland wasn't the strongest character on the show? And so what if he doesn't have a lot of interesting stuff about him on his own? His name was Cleveland Brown, damn it, and he's back in his hometown with his new family. That's right, in this straight-for-money spinoff, Fox executives rolled the dice on MacFarlane for a 3rd time. Not only did those dice roll poorly, they exploded and destroyed the entire casino in a cascade of fire and fury. The plot is that Cleveland and his son leave Quahog. He goes back to his hometown on a road trip. He remarries. They move in. He's got a whole new family. Ooh, whoa. Oops, the plot is still too boring. Better add a Russian bear to spice things up. I don't even care at this point. The Cleveland Show is about as low as adult comedy gets. It's Family Guy denaturing to the point where it's almost unwatchable. And if you're a fan of the Cleveland Show and everything I just said triggered you, remember that all opinions are different, and that we must embrace our differences to create a better future for everyone. But the Cleveland Show is god-awful. Okay, quick disclaimer here. The last 2 aren't exactly cartoons, I'm sorry, but they both have cartoon elements and they're all horrible, so don't kill me, please. I love you, I'm sorry, just listen. I love you! 2006, Cartoon Network dropped Reanimated. This live-action movie was a bizarre move for Cartoon Network as the plot was about a kid who got hit by a train and then had to get a brain transplant from a cartoonist, which ultimately allowed Jimmy to see real animated cartoon characters all the time, every day. It sounds like just flat-out schizophrenia to me and most of the internet, but hey, I'm just a YouTube personality. What does this guy know? I'm Jokester! RetroNemo! The movie was successful enough to be turned into its very own TV show, and it got like 20 episodes. The only problem was the show was horrible. Now, as a little kid, I ate this all up, I remember it. But now that I'm older, I've realized how truly bad it was. A typical episode shows the day-to-day life of Jimmy and how his animated visions create antics for him. The only good part of them is that the penguin character is voiced by Tom Kenny, honestly. The show has a laugh track for some reason, which totally clashes with its trying exactly to be like Ned's Declassified style. Seriously, if you want an idea of how awkward it is, just imagine Ned's Declassified but with a laugh track.
And if you don't believe me, why don't you dress up as a girl and go look for yourself? I was being sarcastic.
It's a trip, man. If you break down the show, it's just another 12-year-olds trying to fit in with the other kids' shtick, except one of them may actually have a mental illness. I mean, if my future son came up to me and said that he and only he could see magical cartoon characters and that he couldn't turn them off and they were constantly annoying him, I'd get that boy on some pills. But just all of them, all the pills. Also, okay, I don't know what kind of shit they're trying to pull here, but a full brain transplant is impossible, and your brain is kind of entirely who you are personality-wise. I can't imagine getting a new brain being as simple as a heart transplant, but okay, Jimmy, you get your 20-minute antics done. Oh, I'll be over here on my computer typing away at theories. Overall, Out of Jimmy's Head was Cartoon Network's first foray into the dastardly world of live action, and led it down the dark path towards CN Real. It deserved to be forgotten. It almost was, too, for a while. It was considered lost media. I thought good had won for once, until some name I can't pronounce started putting them online labeled Schizophrenic Jimmy, and we got reunited with the enemy. But at least it's not as bad as... Here we go. The worst of the worst. The bottom of the barrel. I mean, this list is in no particular order, but still, this show is the worst thing ever to be produced, ever! The show was Crash and Bernstein. Okay, I know. Technically, it isn't a cartoon, but there's a puppet. Just let me rant and leave me be, please. So the show is about a little boy Bernstein who's sick of all the goddamn estrogen in his house, so he builds his own brother, and he's the worst thing ever. There's no other way of approaching this subject. He's just the worst. Together, Bernstein and his puppet from hell, Crash, get into awesome dude-bro adventures that only boys can have.
Bro! Brochacho! Bro vibe! Potato chip!
Woo, pirates, rockets, machine guns, uh-oh, fuck, a burp, I don't know, let's throw it all in there. All the tropes are here, even the annoying little sister. Every episode of the show just tore me apart as a kid. I remember every time it came on, I winced, I couldn't watch. I mean, yeah, the show wasn't funny and annoying and all that, but Crash and Bernstein, it was just on the next level. You got the half man from 2.5 Men and, I don't know, some Sesame Street reject, and every second is unbearable. I mean, the last episode is called Flush in Space. That's the note they wanted to leave on.
Ooh, that's kind of fun. In, out, in, out.
It was bad, guys, and I just want everyone to forget about it. I just want everyone to move on. I want it off IMDb. Let's Fahrenheit 451 this show, man. Let's destroy all evidence of it. Let's burn all the papers. Let's take down the web pages that talk about it. Let's kill everyone who was involved with it. I'm done with Crash and Bernstein. I want it out of my office. I'm done. This is a list of cartoons that should be forgotten, but Crash and Bernstein needs to be forgotten. Outro. At the end of the day, some cartoons are bad. Some cartoons are beyond bad. Some cartoons are even worse. That's just the way it works, though. You gotta take the good with the bad, or else we'll never get anywhere. It's good to learn from mistakes so we can improve upon ourselves, but if it's something like The Cleveland Show, it's best to just be forgotten about. Well, there you have it, guys. Those were 10 cartoon shows that definitely deserve to be forgotten. From top to bottom, they were all horrible, and I hope this video was just as bad. So what do you guys think? Do you remember these shows? Do you wish you didn't remember some of these shows? Do you agree with the list at all? Let us know in the comments down below. Tweet to us at Roundtable Vids and tweet to me at It's RetroNemo. If you liked the video, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to the Roundtable for more great cartoon content. Turn on the notification bell to join our notification squad, and if you want to get even more social, check out our Discord and Amino app. I'm RetroNemo. This is your daily dose of cartoon stuff. I was ranting. I'm tired. I'll see you guys next time. Where's Bulby's show? Oh, Planet Sheen. Blah, blah, blah. Where's Bulby?